Good deal. So thanks for everybody coming today. We're going to be going through some changes that DC is putting in place as far as landlords and how they have to register their properties and themselves. If you're a DC agent and you've done some rentals, definitely this is information we need to reach out to our sellers or our landlords and let them know, are you aware of this change? 48% of the residences in DC are rented. So that's something that you might want to keep in mind that this is affecting nearly half of the housing pool in DC. And so we want to go back to our landlords that we've had customers and clients with and let them know that this change is coming. Fortunately, we have Megan Whaley, who is association extraordinaire as far as DC, G Car, all that kind of stuff. She's a representative for us at NVAR and is our regional culture advocate for the year with her and Scott Ford for the whole region for KW in our area. So that's pretty big too. And so she's just got a heart of gold and wants to make sure everyone's doing the right thing and not getting in trouble. And so I'm going to turn it over to her. She's going to share her screen and talk to us about what's going on. If you guys would write down questions you might have, and then we'll do a Q&A afterwards because I'm sure there's a lot of moving parts to this. And so, Megan, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, awesome. So you guys can hear me, right? Okay. So I am by no means any expert, and I would venture to say there are zero experts at this right now because it's brand new. But I did join the G Car kind of presentation of this in a class on Monday and learned way more detail than I thought was involved in all of this, and just like had an urge to share it with everyone because it's coming and it's not very well organized quite yet. They're still learning as they go because it's new. So, anyways, I just wanted to share what I learned with everyone. Again, by no means is my like word the word of gold, but like it is what I learned, and I just want to make sure I'm sharing it with you guys. So I'm going to share my screen. I made a little PowerPoint presentation, so I made sure I got all my notes out to you. Okay, you guys can see this. Okay. So basically, the due date for any landlord registering their home as a rental in DC is November 29th. Landlords registering their renters has never been this is nothing new. This has been going on. It's just not been in one single database and platform like this before, and they're going to be much more strict. They're also going to be able to be much more harsh with punishments because of it. So it's hugely important that if you are working with any tenant and with any landlord, specifically landlords in DC, that you notify them and make sure that they know that this is out there. A lot of them don't know or are aware, especially if they're managing a property on their own or if they are, you know, working with a very small property manager or like a property manager through a different brokerage that does only a few of them. So, anyways, it's a great opportunity. I think for me, I'm going to reach out to all of my people who I have either helped rent or who I've worked with as a landlord to let them know that this is coming and provide them with some resources and documents that they're going to need to go ahead and do this so that I look really cool. Anyways, here we go. Okay, so Lauren Pear is the one who did the class that I was in. She is overseeing this entire rent registry website. The I messed up this dc.gov down here, but that is the website that you're going to go to enter all of this information. Deadline is looming. Like I said, process is super, super time consuming. They walked us through the process from start to finish, and it took at least an hour to complete. And that was with someone who is familiar with the system and someone who had all the documentation already ready to put into the system. So it is super, super time consuming. And you're going to want to have everything kind of ready before you start the process. Government shutdown is causing a ton of delays. They only have 5 employees working in this department right now, which means that every single home entered has to be manually approved and accepted by them. And they only have 5 people doing it. So the process is just taking forever. Do not wait until the last minute. That is like the number one thing that I took away from this. The filing timeline, you only have 15 days from the time that you start the process and you start your registration to be able to finish it. So if you walk away from it and then you come back, you're going to lose all the information that you've already entered. So that's why it's hugely important, I think, for us to notify our clients of the documentation that's required to complete this so that they come to the table or to their computer ready to enter that information when they start. It'll save a lot of just trouble down the road. The data deletes if it is not completed after 15 days. So just a, you know, time, something to share with your clients. So the account setup, you only a deed holding owner can create an account. So, for instance, this poses a lot of problems for property managers who manage a ton of properties on behalf of their owners. They are unable to go in and actually do this on behalf of the owner. The owner has to do it. The other problem, you a property manager can be named as a team member. There's a way in the platform to provide access to your account to someone else. And a lot of people, a lot of owners are going to use this for their property manager. The problem is that only one email address can be used per account. So if a property manager does what a property manager does and manages multiple homes, they cannot manage more than one with only one email address per address. So they would have to then do, I'm just going to use All County because that's who we use for a lot of our rentals. It wouldn't be like All County Nova at allcounty.com. It's going to now have to be 123 Main Street at allcountynova.com or 124 Main Street or 124 Unit B. So this is like the biggest problem that I saw. One of the biggest problems that I saw when I was going through this is that is going to have to be something that people keep in mind, especially property managers. If you're helping with property management, that's a whole other deal that you're going to have to work through. Owners, they can enter multiple addresses. If they own more than one property in DC, they can create all of them under one email address. So that's a good thing. If you have an owner who owns 2 or 3 properties, they can do them all under one email address. Okay. Next is this is kind of silly, but when you create your home, your 123 Main Street in the portfolio or in this platform, there's a color coding system, but there is no key for what the color coding system is. So yellow means that the owner has started their registration, but they have not finished it. Blue means that they have finished their registration and they have sent it in for review. And then green means that it has been accepted for filing. So just something good to know and to let your clients know that, you know, I get the question of, I'm not sure I submitted it correctly. Well, if it's still yellow, then you didn't. If it's blue, then you did. Okay. Required documents. So this is kind of a big deal for a lot of different reasons. The documents that you're going to have to actually go in and create your registry are your deed. You have to have a copy of your deed. You have to have a copy of your certificate of occupancy, and you have to have a copy of your business license, the BBL that everyone has when they go to register rentals. So, biggest problem that I know I'm going to run across for my clients is people saying, I don't have that. Where do I go to get it? So the answer is for the deed, you have to go to the recorder of deeds, which is shut down currently. And for the certificate of occupancy, you have to go um, to the Department of Buildings and also shut down. It's and beyond the shutdown, it's taking about 2 months to get these certificate of occupancies. I don't know if anyone's tried doing it recently. The most recent one that I have done still hasn't been approved, and it was almost 2 months ago, a little under 2 months ago. But so it's taking forever. And then your BBL license, obviously, all of you know that this takes about a month, even in a good scenario. I don't know how the government shutdown is affecting that because I haven't done it recently enough to know. But in the past, when I've done it, it typically takes about a month, anyways. So if you put all of these things in place and you look at a calendar, you realize that you're well beyond the November 29th timeline already. Um, so again, just like getting this information to our clients, I think as quickly as possible and providing them with as much information as we can to be helpful is going to be really important for me. Um, all right, so owner information. So just as a precursor, this was something that I heard over and over and over again in the meeting that I sat in, and then just in the few conversations that I've had with my clients. And part of it, I think, is particular to the type of clientele that I service, but I do think that people will have questions surrounding this. Owner information has to be entered into this portal. Owner information is inclusive of someone's full name, their email address, their phone number, and the address in which they reside currently. So not their rental address, but the address that they have that they're receiving mail at. So I've gotten a lot of questions around privacy with this. The short and small of it is that all of this information is not going to be private. It is going to be very accessible in a way that it never has been before. Prior, you had to go up and pull a BBL license and then read through all of it, search for it through a database, and then you could find this information, but it was much more difficult. Now it's going to be a map of DC with all of the rental properties. You can click on one and it tells you all of this information automatically, like first page. So, with clients, I think that maybe you work with that are landlords that might have some issues around privacy. That's something that they're going to need to navigate with, I don't know, a lawyer or someone. I don't know who they navigate it with, but not me. Um, and then the other information that's going to be required and public is the registered agent's information. So, as we all know, in DC, if you do not live in the district, you have to have a registered agent who lives in the district. This person has to, their name, their email, their phone number, and their DC address will be public as well. They must have a DC address. It has to be a recognized address in the USPS mail system, meaning that it cannot be a PO box. It can't be a DPO address for those of our clients who are military, foreign service, who live overseas and have a DPO current address. That will not fly. They all of the address entered into this system, whether it's an owner address or a registered agent address, must be a physical DC property address. So this in general is going to bring up a ton of problems. The answer that I received when I posed the question of a lot of my clients own property in DC, but their current address is a DPO address, was you have to contact Lauren and her team, the email addresses that I gave you at the beginning, to have them physically go in and enter that for you. I have no idea how long that's going to take, but I imagine it will not be a short period of time. When she pulled up her list of pending properties to search, it was like in the thousands. So again, this is not going to be a quick thing. The other part of information that an owner is going to have to add when they create their registry is their tenant names. This information will not be public. This is private. Tenant names will be private. However, there's only the ability to enter 4 tenant names. The reason that we were given for using the tenant names is that they're trying to keep record of people who um, eh, if they do get evicted, where they go. I didn't love the explanation of why we're getting tenant names, but they're taking them. And it is a field that you have to fill out as you're going through the process. Okay. Next is duplexes and English basements. I highlighted this for us because this is going to be what I deal with mostly with my clients. Most of my clients are not going to be in multifamily um, entries. If you do have multifamily entries or you have a building with someone who owns like more than 4 properties, they can go in and enter all of them as a grouping, but then they will disperse individually. So if you had unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, they're all in the same building and they all have the same attributes about them. You could do it all at one time. So that is helpful. This is also going to be helpful for the people who manage like big buildings downtown. But for my case, I'm working with duplexes and English basement styles. So these are supposed to be entered as 2 different units. The reason why they have to be entered in 2 different units is because if you have, like I have for a lot of clients, owner occupied basements with they're renting out the upstairs or vice versa, whatever the case may be. If you go to evict your tenant and you don't have them entered as 2 separate things, you're essentially evicting yourself and your tenant because they see your property as one rental unit rather than your unit in the basement and their unit in upstairs. Um, the problem that this creates is that if you've worked in DC, you know that it is impossible to get a certificate of occupancy for both units. Um, I don't have a good answer for that. I don't know the workaround for that, but I'm just saying that it's going to be something that is going to happen and it's going to get worked through. Um, I think what I took away from the class is that it's best to enter your tenant and enter your certificate of occupancy with the tenant rather than with yourself. And basically, you're not entering, you don't have to enter your property because you are the owner, it is not leased, therefore it's not a rental property. It doesn't belong in the rental registry. So for instance, I have a client who is renting out upstairs. She is going to enter her property as 123 Main Street, Unit 1, with her certificate of occupancy, with her deed, with all of that information, and then she's not going to enter the English basement. Um, okay. Rental fee details. So this was kind of an interesting part of it too. So you are responsible for entering the rent for the past 2 years. So if you have rented and changed your fees over the past 2 years, you have to enter those fees for the previous 2 years. Then there's a portion where you enter all the amenities and all of the utilities of your rental. So similar to what we do on the MLS, you would go in and say, this house has, you know, a microwave, a dishwasher, a gas stove. You are entering all of those things into this rent registry along with the cost associated with them. So when it comes to you entering hot water, then it's going to ask you for the cost of the hot water, which becomes difficult because if you have gas, if gas powers your hot water, you've got a gas fee and a water fee, and those are different every month. And how do you enter the cost? Um, the best explanation that I was given for this is if the tenant is paying all of their utilities, that you should enter, they don't have an option for tenant pays all utilities. They have a bunch of other options, but that's not one of them. So you can manually enter fields. And I was told to enter it as tenant pays all utilities. So you would have hot water, tenant pays all utilities for that under the cost. Um, that's it. Rent control versus rent exemption versus exclusion under rent controls. So, as we all know, people apply for their business license and they are either exempt from rent control or excluded. Um, Most of our people are going to be exempt. Exclusions really only apply to those people who or like in group housing, dorms, embassies, hospitals, nonprofits. Like it really isn't an exclusion, it's an exemption. So I think this is just something to make clear to your clients that when they get to this portion of registry, to let them know like they are exempt from rent control, if they are truly exempt from rent control, which most of them I think will be. Um, the part that became interesting to me with this is that when you enter your exemption, a lot of people are registering their homes as LLCs. If your home is registered as an LLC, then you cannot register it as a homeowner. And if you register as a homeowner and your deed is in the homeowner's name, not in the LLC, you're not going to be able to finish your registry. It's not going to notice the home, it's not going to notice the address, and it won't allow you to proceed forward. So, getting the house in the name, getting or the name of the LLC, and making sure that all of these documents are consistent with one another is going to be a challenge that I think a lot of people are going to run into in this process. Um, okay, that's what I got on that. And then BBL fees. So this was also something that I learned I was not aware of, and I think maybe I've been telling people the wrong thing, but I've BBLs are issued, the license that everyone has in DC, they're issued every 2 years. It will go in, there's a portion of the registration here that asks you if you have your BBL and if you have already paid the registration fee, because I learned that the registration fee for your license does not go to the same branch that operates the DC rent registry. So if you've already paid your BBL, they don't make you pay one to register. If you have not and you don't enter that information, they're going to make you pay again. So it's issued every 2 years. It's $30 a year. When your landlords get to this section, they should be entering $60 total. When it says like, here's your BBL license number. Did you pay this fee? Yes. And how much did you pay? It's $60, not $30, even though it's $30 a year because it's on a biannual basis. Okay. Additional documentation and upload tips. So the very last portion of the registry is the ability for the owner to upload any missing documentation that would justify or clarify any lapses in information that they weren't able to provide. I think that this is going to be hugely important for people right now in order to get registered by the deadline without any penalty or without being able to get registered. I think that this is important. I am going to advise all of my clients that if you are unable or you don't have something right now, upload something in the additional documentation that you're either working on it, it's filed, you're in the process of getting it, whatever it is, whatever you have, like upload it because they are accepting that information and they can put you in almost like a pending status so that on that deadline, you're not unregistered and running an illegal rental. Um, the the note that I have here is just to remove all special characters. Um, when you upload a PDF, it does .pdf at the end of it. Remove that, it won't accept it. Remove parentheses, ampersands, like all of these things, it won't accept it. So when they get to that point and they're like, I tried to upload it and it wouldn't upload, well, that's why. Um, and then oh, this was also a really good point that I didn't think about that someone else brought up. A lot of people who live in condos are going to have building violations posted in the DC registry because of something in the building, but not in their unit. The system works, whereas if you have a building code violation in your building where your address is, it will not allow you to be accepted. So I would advise if you have condo clients who are renting out their homes to one, find out from their condo association or their HOA association, are there any building violations? They should go into the register, not into this registry, but they should go into the files of DC, find out if there is anything on their building, have that documentation, and make sure that they upload it and say, this is not for my building, or this is not for my unit, this is for the building. I was told that DC does not care if it's not your property, it's not your condo, but the building has a problem. They are still going to make it a problem for you, and that they're hoping it encourages homeowners and condo members to reach out to their association and get those things fixed. So they're almost using it as like a way to pressure from the inside, getting these building violations approved, solved, whatever. Um, so that I also saw as probably being a big problem for a lot of people. Just wanted to highlight it. All right, post approval. Once you get approved, which if anyone gets approved, great. But once you get approved, you are required, you're going to get a 4-page like approval document that has all of your information and the write-up about your property on it. Part of this new requirement, and it's kind of always been this way, I just don't think that we've done it very well, is that you're supposed to deliver via mail or hand delivery this document saying that you're registered as a rental in DC, along with forms 3, 4, and 5. And these are those forms to your tenant. So one is the disclosure to your applicant, the other one is your rent history disclosure, and the notice of access to records. These are things that, I'll be honest, in the past, I have not made sure that my landlords have done. I know that it's written there that they should, but it is not something. So this is something I am going to highlight to all my clients and make sure that they have access to, is that, okay, forms 3, 4, and 5, these are things once you get approved that you need to mail or hand deliver to your tenant. Even if they've already signed a lease, even if they've already are in the unit and have been there for 3 years, like this is something new that has to go out as of November 29th. Um, Email is only authorized, learned this too. Email is only an authorized notification if it was approved in the lease and already prior authorized. So I definitely didn't do that with any of mine. Legal and compliance reminders. So this is required to evict any of your tenants. So I was told that if you are not registered in the DC Rent Registry and your landlord has a problem and wants to evict their tenant, which we already know is difficult in DC, but if that is the case, it is gonna get kicked back and said, you are running an illegal rental and we can't help you. So this is why it's important to make sure that our landlords and our clients are taken care of and make sure that they register, because if they do not, then they can't get a tenant evicted. Also, I think this is something just that might apply to multi-family and bigger buildings, but no rent increases will be allowed if you're unregistered. So if they see that you are, again, I don't know that DC has the capacity to do this, but if they see that you're raising the rent and or a tenant files a petition on you that you have raised the rent and you are not registered in this, it's you will get in trouble for doing so. The other thing that a lot of people brought up in the class that I was in is the question of personal information, and that the access to personal information. Also, a lot of the property managers expressed concern over if they are named a team member for their their owner and they are entering information on their behalf and something happens with that information, what is their liability? So just something to think about. I will tell you that personally, what I am going to do is make this spreadsheet or this, not spreadsheet, this PowerPoint a little bit nicer and prettier and less information, not all the stuff that I've told you guys, but more of like, okay, these are the documents that you're required, and these are the things that you should be prepared to answer when you go through it. I'm also going to tell all of our clients that the actual registration for, sorry, Steve's trying to get in here. um, that when they're registering, if they want a copy of their lease, the portion that has the amenities and the cost of those things, uh, yeah, if they want the utilities, all of that stuff that we do in the MLS, that I'll provide them with a copy of that. So I'm kind of using it as an opportunity to reach out and say, hey, look, this is coming up. This is what you should be prepared for. These are the things that I would advise you to do and to look into. These are the documents that you need to have prepared. And if you need these things, and I'm going to make a list of the three that I can provide them to help, reach out to me. I'll give them to you, just kind of as a touch point. But I would also say stay as far away from this as you can because it sounds messy, and I think it is. I'm not your broker though. You should ask him. Okay, let's see here. Last slide. So this is where questions go. RAD database at or dot inquiries at dc.gov. So that is where they told me if you have any like special needs or if you have something that's not working, this is where you should send your emails to. I don't know how quickly they'll get answered, but that's it. And then Lauren, at the bottom of this slide, you'll see lauren.pair at dc.gov. I would save that one because she's the one who's in charge of all of this. And I would CC her on every single one of these because I know that she's crazy busy and that she's probably not going to answer you, but at least having a record of filing that you've tried, I think could be helpful. This information on the DHCD website is just kind of where you can get a lot of the information. Again, most of this is notes that I took when we were walking through the physical process of registering a landlord. So I don't know that all the information is on this website, but you can at least point people to it. And then when you run into issues, which I assume a lot of us will, I've already sent several that I have concerns over. For example, the personal information, people having their home in an LLC versus in their name and it not matching the deed. I've already sent a lot of those things to them, but I think the more people that do that, maybe the quicker it gets addressed in round two of this. That's all I got.
All right. Okay, I got a few comments and then we'll
Yeah.
open it up to questions. And remember, actually, if you keep all that up so we
Oh,
can flow
okay.
through it as the
Yep.
questions come up,
Yeah,
just
happy
go to the
to.
very top. Anyway, number one, remember when you are doing real estate, you are doing a business, whether you're doing it casually or professionally. So that's one discussion you want to have with your landlords. I'm sure there were a lot of moans and groans during the session. And it seems to me, and I'm just making a comment, but keep this in the back of your mind as you're walking through, not to complain, but to realize this is the pot we're in, and we gotta work on it. It seems to me DC passed this process or said we're going to enforce this more without really understanding the details they're asking for. I mean, I can't tell you how many houses are in an LLC. So let me comment as the broker on this. I would submit because I know they don't want to take it out of an LLC. They want to remain it in there for legal purpose for protection purposes. So I would have the managing member's name as the name. So if I have an LLC of, you know, Anthony Carr's Properties LLC, I'll just have Anthony Carr and I'm the managing member. Okay, that's what I would suggest to do. Um, Also remind your landlords this is not a one and done. The fact that they want tenant names in there every time, I mean, they're making a huge upgrade, it seems to me, of the information that they have on 48% of the housing so that they know who really owns this, who do we go to if there's a problem, and if there's an issue going on in the house, at least we have a landlord as a partner, if you want to look at it that way, that lets us know who's here. The fact that you have a map that you can cross over and look at this information. The other thing I would suggest, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but if the phone number, I would get a Google phone number that you could use for possibly all of them. The email has to be different. Set up an email for each property. Okay, so 123 Lois Lane dash Anthony at gmail.com. And that's the email that I now start using with each property that I own. And like Megan said, most of the folks in this, as far as owners are concerned, these are going to be one-offs. They're going to have one, maybe two properties. The ones that own four or more, they're definitely in real estate investing business. That's a whole different headache. I'm not even going to deal with that one. But as we go back and talk with our landlords, what we are doing is putting up a megaphone and saying, these changes are here. Sorry, I can't do anything for you. Okay. I'm letting you know you need to be aware of this and it's coming down the pike. Um, the registered agent, there are registered agent companies in DC. That's what they're established to do, is to be registered agents. Because even if you're not talking real estate, there are registered agents for your LLC. There are registered agents for corporations and things like that. I just looked it up here and I've already let it go down. That you can look up registered agent in Washington, D.C., and there's several companies there that you could choose from. I know that many times agents are the registered agent for people to be their registered agent in Virginia and DC. It's going to be a lot different because you got to be in the city of DC. Um, I think that's all I put down. All right. So any questions? Let me look at the chat, see what we got here. What if
I
the
wanted
tenants
to
do not
mention,
want?
Anthony, on one of the parts that you said about the managing member, because
Yeah.
that was a specific point that I answered as that, or that I asked in the class. So when you go to register, you register as your owner name. And
Mhm.
if that connects to your deed, you get to the next process.
Right.
Next process, certificate of occupancy. If it matches their certificate of occupancy, you go on. If it matches the BBL, which is where you run into issues because a lot of people have entered their BBL as an LLC.
Uh,
So, anyways,
are they going to have to go back and edit all of that to make it line up? They
they're
want
going to have
individuals on the dime, is what they're looking for.
exactly. They're
They
going to
don't
have
want
to go back and
corporations.
register their BBL under their
Yeah.
name instead of under their LLC.
Yeah.
Or they're going to have to go back and enter their property and change their deed from their Megan Whaley to Megan Whaley LLC.
Wow.
So
Um,
everything has to match.
yeah, Andy, wow. So they're forcing this on these absentee owners on how they're holding property. That's very interesting. I could see this getting challenged.
Yes.
Anyway, Andy brought up a good point. Andy Biggers, what if there are multiple owners? Let's say you and I own a property together. How would we register that?
Yeah, so only one owner has to register. So if you own it as like a married couple, or if you have an investment property, whatever, only one owner. It has to be registered. The house has to
Yeah.
be registered. And one of those people who's registering, that owner, has to be on the deed
Yeah.
and the certificate of occupancy
Yeah.
and the license.
Now, according to the DC government website, they're open. It just sounds like they're going to be very short-handed, and hopefully they're going to add on some extra people on this. Because, like I said, maybe they don't even realize, oh, this is half the city. And the only ones that are going to be ahead of the game are the ones that are already registered and know where everything is. And the fact that we're getting this to our clients who who own property there, we're at least getting them the 30-day notice.
Yes.
But everyone needs to, what's the expectation? From where I'm sitting, here's the expectation. It's going to be delayed. It's going to be busy. It's going to be get in line, but it's going to be get your packet together. And it possibly is going to be also multiple tries to get this done. Then there's going to be a whole nother group of people who aren't even aware of this, and they will not be in the crowd, the herd, trying to get registered. So that's a little bit of a good news. And they'll just be like, I could see with someone making a complaint with the government, and the government goes to the the agency, whichever one manages this, finds out who the landlord is. The landlord's not registered or anything. I could see there being major penalties against that person to get everything lined up. So someone who was renting it and they rented it on put it on a bulletin board at school or in their office, and they rented it out privately. They never registered. They never put it in ownership. They're going to be really hammered when it comes up that there's some sort of complaint about the building, about the individual. So this is not to be ignored. Now, does how does it affect leases? I think the leases are a different animal. And so it's like a property management company can be the one that's holding a lease for a property owner so that your lease is with the property management company because the owner gave the property management the authority to do that. So I think you're going to be okay with the leases. I wouldn't worry so much about that. This is all about how am I holding my property, getting the business license, the deed, and all of that lined up to be the same, and the certificate of occupancy. And that might be also someone got a certificate of occupancy from the former owner and thought they were covered. No, you're not. So very good
But
report.
a
All
lot of
right. So
certificate of occupancies are from years and years and years and years ago when they first started,
yeah.
and they have either changed the way that their property is held in title or,
Mhm.
whatever.
Right.
So it's
Or
just going to be.
someone's passed away and is no longer on the deed. So a
Oh,
lot
that's
of,
a good point.
oh,
Sorry to bring that up. Somebody did bring that up. If somebody is on the deed and it's now in a different name because someone has passed, you can upload into your additional documents the death certificate and that will be accepted. So
mhm.
that's good.
A lot of moving parts.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Remember, we're not the authority. We're just the messengers bringing this to you. So you may be asking some questions that will not be answered by us, that you'll have to go in and talk with Miss Pear.
Yeah. Don't shoot the messenger.
Glad we got this on recording.
Yeah.
No questions?